where the block table starts, what we talked about before,
Yes.
and you would add the size of a block ID.
Can you, if you have like a time, like, can you draw with, because I can't understand with just.
Sure, but so
Yes.
do you understand what I mean by the size of a block ID?
Size of block ID. Size of block. It's index. So if I say 16, it will go 16 down. If it's
Yeah,
just.
so 16 bits, 2 bytes. That's the size of a block ID. Correct? Yeah, and so you will have to add the size of the block ID times the whatever ID you actually have.
Whatever ID I actually have.
Well, so you have a certain block ID that you want to look up in the block table, correct?
Yes, correct, yes.
Let's call this block ID X. It could be any number between 1 to 401.
Like you say something like if I say 10, is it X?
Yeah, could be. So imagine you read this SFS entry and
Okay.
it had a first block
Let's say
ID,
10.
and now you are trying to look that up in the block table. Okay?
Okay, yes, I understand this part, yes.
Good. So the way we are going to do this is, first of all, to get to the beginning of the block table, we start at block table offset. That is the beginning of the block table.
Do we need to start of the block table?
Yes. Well, I mean, if you do a disk read, so if you read from the disk, you need to give a specific absolute address. So you need to tell it that it should read from the block table. Right? Is that clear?
Yes, it will read from block table, but that's the part that I don't understand.
Yes, okay, so to be able to read the block table, you need to tell the function where the block table is. Because the function that reads from disk, it doesn't know that you actually have a file system there. It only understands bytes.
Yes, okay.
That's also clear, right?
Yes.
Okay, so basically, we are trying to read the first block, the block that is at the location that first block points to.
First block
Right.
points to in data part, right? Not block table.
No, in the block table part. The data part, that's another concern. But for now, we're talking about the block table.
Okay. But
because the ID is not only a location in the data part, it's also a location in the block table. That's how you find the next block ID.
Excellent. To be honest, I understand the concept, but only this coding part gives me like okay, keep going.
Right,
maybe.
I cannot tell you how to code this. I can only try to explain it.
I don't expect you to just tell me how to code this. What I don't understand is like. Okay, keep going. Maybe I can understand something.
Yeah. So basically, you are trying to calculate at which byte location the next block ID will be. So what you will have to tell the disk read function to read from. And so you can, first of all, you can calculate this, but by starting off at the beginning of the block table.
Okay.
And then adding the size of a single block ID times the actual value of the current first block.
Is this
-1 because obviously it's one more than it actually is.
Is it current address? This one is current address?
The current block ID, which in the initial case is first block.
Okay. In that case, I'm gonna go to block table. inside of block table, and I will know where is the first block is.
Well, you already know where the first block, or yeah, basically you already know where the first block is because you have its ID.
Okay.
Right, and so the way you calculate it is you take the block table offset and you add a size of the block ID times the actual ID you have minus 1. Because obviously if you have block ID 1, you want to get the first block, so that would be the size of a block ID times 1 minus 1, so 0. And that's how you would get the place where the block table offset points to.
If I ask you, can you draw it to draw at least some kind of image like this that I can understand? Like.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you.
But let's see, I don't really have a lot of tools for that, but I'll try. Can you see my screen?
Yes, I'm seeing your screen, yes.
Cool. Okay, so you have the block table like this. You have some other stuff here too, and other stuff here too.
Magic.
But for now, you only care about the block table.
Okay.
Right, this is the block table.
Okay.
So in the block table, you have these entries.
Is it like a
right?
4,000 entries? Is it true?
Yeah, it's some amount of entries. I don't know. that doesn't really matter. It's defined in the code.
Okay.
And so this is entry 1. This is entry 2, entry 3, and so on. 5, 4, 5, 6. Okay, that's clear so far, right?
Yes, now it's clear, yeah.
Yes, and all of these contain the next ID. So, for example, let's say this is gonna have the number 3 in it. This is gonna have 2. This is gonna have 6. And this will be the end. Right?
Okay.
So each of these, so like one of this is a size of block ID, so 16 bits, correct?
Size of block ID, 2 bytes you mean, okay.
Yes, 2 bytes. You can get that by typing size of block ID.
Okay.
So basically, if this is one file, this is a chain of files, right? The initial first block is 1. If you look up block 1, then it tells you that the next one is block 3.
What do you mean initial? Like first block is a 3, you say? Is it?
No. The first block is block. So in the SFS entry.
Yes. In root directory. In root.
In the root directory, yes. You would have the first block would be equal to 1.
First block would be equal to 1. Okay.
In this case.
Yes.
So you would go to the block ID 1 to look up what the next one is.
This
is block ID 1, right?
That's the part I want to ask. Like, how I'm gonna go there? Like a size offset, root directory plus magic plus, and then 1, something like that?
No. So you have the offset to this point, right? Here. This is the block table offset.
Okay, understand.
And then you need to add 2 bytes, so size of block ID, ID minus 1 times.
Size of block ID times Size of block ID times
times the actual block ID minus 1.
actual block ID.
So let me just tell you an example how you would find this place. You would have the... Are you here?
Yeah, I'm here, yes.
So you would have the block table offset, and you would add 2 bytes times 1 minus 1, so 0. And that's how you get this location. To get this location here, let me do that with another color.
Like if
this is not valid.
If I say like
Sorry?
6 is better, I guess. If I want to go 6, if 6 is my first block, let's say.
Yeah. Yes.
How I'm going to do that?
Okay. So basically, you want to point here.
Yes, I want to point there.
Okay. So you would start again at the block table offset here.
Yes.
And you would add the size of block ID times 6 minus 1.
2 byte times. How I'm gonna get 6? What's the like?
Well, you know you are trying to find the 6th one. So 6 is the block ID.
Block ID times size of block ID. No.
Yeah, block ID minus 1, because if you added it 6 times, then you would point after it, because it's 1 more.
Okay. Okay, yes, understand. So if we keep going, yes, from 1.
Yeah, and then basically you would get number 1, and you would read what is in block ID location number 1, and you would get this number 3. So then you would go on to read number 3, and you know this is the next block ID, and here you would read number 2, and then you can get here, and here you would read number 6, and then you would read this, and you see that this is the last one because there's no more block IDs. This is the end.
Let me ask like one question. So I am at 1. I'm saying that this is my first block, but I need to go to data part, right, to read the file.
Yes, you also need to do that for every block ID.
So I'm in a block table right now. I have all the indexes. So if I'm index 1, how I'm gonna go to the data part? Like I need to give the offset again,
Well, yes, you need to calculate the offset in the data part as well.
I need to
basically the same way, but you will use the data part offset and the size of the block, not the size of the block ID in this case.
Size of the block? Yeah, okay, I understand data part, data offset, because I am looking for start. I don't see a block.
I'm sorry?
I only see the type of block index. Do we have a block?
Well, the data part is basically in blocks of, I think, 512 bytes. Right, you can get this information by reading the README.
I read README, like. Okay, I'm going to data part offset. So, like, if you can draw a little bigger screen. Yes.
Yeah.
If you have a data part that you did this.
If I have a, well, the data part basically works the same. You,
just.
Why is this? Let me make this a bit bigger.
Yes.
Okay, so you have the data part. It pretty much works the same way. You have, like, I'm gonna make it a bit bigger so it's clear.
Okay.
So the same way. This is block 1, 2, 3, 4, and the same way. Let's see. This is the data offset.
Plus 512.
And this is the size of a block, which I think, yeah, let's just type that.
Size of block.
Yeah, not of block ID.
It's a SFS block size, I guess.
Exactly. Right? That's how you would basically look up the next block in the block table.
Okay.
Yes. So that's pretty much it.
So you're in the first block right now. Your first block shows the block table. Is it correct? Your first block shows the block table.
Well, the first block shows the first block ID. So in this case, we have a file that consists of 1, 2, 3, 4 blocks. Okay?
Yes.
There's 4 blocks overall. It's block 1. Draw that a bit myself. So block 1, then block 3, then block 2, and then block 6.
End of the file.
Sorry?
Block 6 is end of the file.
Yes, but there's still data there. So you would the way you would read this file is you first get this.
I first get this. Yes, from SFS entry. Yes.
From SFS entry. Then you go to the block table here.
Okay.
And you also read this because you know that this belongs to the file.
Yes.
This is the first part of the file.
It's 25% of my file is there. So
yes,
I need to discrete, right? Discrete for that one part in this data.
I'm sorry?
Do I need to do the discrete?
Oh yes. You need to read this. This should be red. And you also need to read this from the block table. Yeah. And then you would basically here you would read the file. That's fine. You already have it. You can be happy about that. And here you would read the number 3. So you know that the next one is the number 3. So you will then read this because this is the next part of the file.
Yes.
Right. This is how the files goes. 1,
2,
then 3. And you would also read the block table entry 3.
Yes. And
then you would get that the next part of the file is in block ID 2. So then we already had 3, now we have 2. So then you're gonna read number 2, data block 2, you're gonna read block table entry 2, and you're gonna get the number 6. Right? Then you're gonna read in the data size basically here, the data area. I don't have it here, but imagine this is block 6, you read that.
Yep.
You also read this here. And you see that the next one you read is empty. So this was the last one.
And stopped.
Actually, and not empty. Yeah, so you stop. You're done.
So reading through this file says this assignment trees file.pdf. It says that we should do the reading files from root directory. So I have a path. They will give me a path. I need to split it up, I guess. So
well, in the root directory, there's only the name basically.
Like a slash. If I say /foo, that means.
Yeah. Then you will basically only need to care about the foo part.
Only I need to care about the foo part.
Well, in the root directory, because there's no more slashes in there, guaranteed.
But in the test that they will give us for the reading root directory, they will only give me a one path, like a something like /foo or something like that.
Well, yeah, for the root directory tests, yes.
So I need
So
to.
you can just ignore the first one, the first character, which will always be a slash, and
reading reading that file in this with this method.
yes.
But last part, last thing. So you can you show the screen again, like the last 1 minute? I don't want to take your time more.
Sure. Yeah.
So you said this thing. You said, I understand the disk. I need to read the file part, but why I'm reading the block table part as well?
Yes. So the block ID is also a location in the block table and a location in the data part.
Okay. What's that mean? Like, so I need to do disk read for this data part. I understand, but
yes. You also need to do disk read for the block table to get the next block.
From that output, I will put that output into the data part.
Yeah.
Something like, okay. Yep. Thanks. Yep.
All right. Well, I hope I could help. Good luck with the assignment.